James Comey had a personal vendetta. He believed that his role in the FBI was one that he was the ultimate arbiter of being judge and jury on anything that he did or did not like.
Only in Washington, D.C. can you have 70-plus pages of bad news and expect an apology. But I can tell you, the Inspector General's report and the John Durham report coming out will be more damning than this.
We shall see on that. Some of the Republican reaction last week after the IG report did not decide to prosecute James Comey. The fired FBI director saying that he was vindicated. Want to bring in our headliner today, Trey Gowdy, former South Carolina congressman and Fox News contributor, and welcome back to our program today. Good morning to you, sir. How about an apology? What do you think of that?
Morning. I don't think that's, well, this is what you'd be apologizing. This is who you'd be apologizing to. Someone who violated FBI and DOJ policy, violated the terms of his employment agreement, divulged the existence of an investigation, which is a big no-no, transmitted classified information, and then when the FBI came to his house after he was fired, had amnesia. That's the person. Oh, and by the way, this is not the first time Jim Comey was dinged by the Inspector General. Remember, he was dinged in the Clinton investigation because Comey plays by his own set of rules. So he's 0 for 2 in the 2 major investigations he had in 2016, violated almost everything you can think of except a criminal statute, and that's the guy that wants you to apologize to him.
Here's a tweet. James Comey wants an apology. DOJ, IG, found no evidence that Comey or his attorneys released any of the classified information contained in any of the memos to members of the media. I don't need a public apology from those who defamed me, but a quick message with a sorry we lied about you would be nice. Okay, first of all, he basically spied on the Trump administration after they had actually, I mean, before and after they actually won the White House. Who should be doing the apology here?
Well, I'm in a unique position. I never said he should be in jail. I've never said anyone should be in jail. That was my old job, not my new job. Mm-hmm. So I don't owe him an apology. But go back. Remember when President Trump was criticized roundly because he said he wasn't sure he would share information if he gained it in the course of a campaign. Remember when he said that? He was criticized roundly for that. Let's take a look at who he would have called in 2016. Jim Comey. If there's a bigger Trump critic in the United States than Jim Comey, I haven't met him. John Brennan, he might be 1B. Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Jim Baker, and Andy McCabe, who's on indictment watch right now. That's who the president would have called in 2016. So if he appears to be a little bit reluctant to trust the intelligence community and law enforcement, that's who he would have been dealing with in 2016.
2 days ago, Ari Fleischer was on our show talking with Julie, and he was describing the January 2017 meeting at Trump Tower. Yeah. Now, this is a transitional period now into a new presidency. The country had voted 2 months prior, and Fleischer characterized it this way.
Think what James Comey was doing. Instead of meeting a new president-elect to begin a relationship and get to know one another, he began, in essence, to treat the president-elect as if he were part of a crime, a witness to a potential crime, and he sought information. That's why he fed it back to the Crosswind Hurricane team. Extraordinary, on top of so many other things that just show terrible, terrible judgment by James Comey and his team.
My guess is that summarizes it for you.
Well, it does, but I would add to this. I would add to what Ari said. I would love Jim Comey to say, what was the evidentiary basis for you even believing that? I mean, we had a 2-year-long Mueller investigation at the end of which 0 Americans were indicted for colluding with Russia. So you had a 2-year-long FBI investigation. You're going to take your first opportunity to interview the soon-to-be leader of the free world, and you're going to try to bolster an investigation that wound up leading to nothing. So, Jim Comey, what was the basis for your believing that President Trump or candidate Trump colluded with Russia? What is the evidentiary basis? Some of us have been asking that question for about 2 years, and all we get is some oblique reference that George Papadopoulos made in a bar. That's the whole reason we had a 2-year-long investigation.
I mean, that was, though, the whole theme of the FBI's basis. They had no basis. I mean, they used the Christopher Steele memo, that, you know, dossier, which turned out to be BS, and that was their basis. So they were going knowingly on BS.
Right. That was the basis in the fall. That was
Yeah.
the fall of 2016.
Right.
Even before that, when they, quote, launched the Russia investigation, it was based on a comment in a bar. That doesn't even get to the dossier, which Jim Comey admitted in December of 2016 had never been corroborated, never been vetted, and certainly wasn't verified. So, look, he's not indicted. If your goal in life is to avoid indictment, congratulations, Jim Comey, you did it. My goal in life is to have history say that, you know what, I was fair. I may have had my critics, but I was fair. And history will not judge Jim Comey as a fair FBI director. He's a partisan who delights in attacking the person that he'd still be working for right now, Julie. Keep in mind, if he hadn't been fired, he'd still be working for the person that he thinks is too unfit even for impeachment.
Sir, thank you for your time, Trey Gowdy. Congress comes back next week. Do we get the IG report next week in its entirety, yes or no?
The new one that Horowitz is working on?
Yeah.
No, I mean, Lindsay will get it before anybody else, and
You haven't
yeah, I
heard.
mean, I hear rumors, but Horowitz is really good about keeping this stuff to himself.
So you're
I
as
doubt
in
it's
the
next
dark
week.
as the rest of us. Okay, well, that's good to know.
Good to have you, sir. Trey
Thank
But
Gowdy,
you know
thank
what? We're supposed to be in the dark. We're supposed to be.
For now. Thank you very
Right
much.
now.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
weekend. Thanks.